911 operator, where is your emergency?
I don't know what's happening. Somebody kicked in the door inside my girlfriend. Oh, my God.
Okay, how old is your girlfriend?
She's 26. Bree. Oh my
You said 26.
God.
Where was she shot at?
I don't know. She's on the grill right now. I don't know.
Okay.
Mama.
You said she's 26. Is she alert and able to talk to you?
No, she's not. Bree. God.
Absolutely horrifying 911 call, all right? You may not know this story. I'm going to tell it to you right now. That's Kenneth Walker. He's at home with Breonna Taylor, his girlfriend. It's the middle of the night. It's just a regular night. Someone smashes down their door. He panics. He grabs his gun. Someone knocks down your door in the middle of the night, right? It's Second Amendment. You know, right to bear arms, protect yourself, protect your loved ones. He's trying to do that. They fire back. They end up shooting and killing Breonna Taylor, an EMT. You know what it was? It was the police. One of those no-knock warrants. Middle of the night, looking for drugs. Guess what they didn't find? Drugs. Did not find any. And now everyone's wondering, well, why did they have that warrant? What is going on and what's going to happen to the officers involved? How did it get to that point? Well, the news we're hearing today is that Brett Hankinson, one of the officers involved is they've initiated the termination proceedings, but apparently there's still some level of some sort of investigation going on. But any time that you got to call 911 because the police are at your house, that's a problem. That's a problem. I've never been a fan of no-knock warrants. We live in a country with the Second Amendment. How can that ever end well? And come on. And it's a huge drug case, right? We've got to make sure they don't flush the drugs down the toilet. There weren't any drugs there. Do your jobs a little bit better. All right. Breonna Taylor's family has hired an attorney. Lanita Baker is her name, and she joins us now live. Lanita, thank you so much for joining us. I appreciate it. You know probably a lot more than I do, closer to the case. Are they going to terminate this officer, and does it stop there, or is there still some level of an investigation going into why on earth they're knocking down that door in the middle of the night?
So to your first question of are they going to terminate him? Yes. The reason the language that came out today is that they're going to start the process to terminate him is because under our Kentucky statutes, they have to be given notice of the termination with an opportunity to file an appeal of that termination. We've been asking since day one for them to terminate all of the officers involved. Today, as we know, they started those proceedings for Brett Hankinson. We do think other officers need to be involved, especially, one of the troubling things about this is, yes, there was a search warrant for Breonna Taylor's home, but what we learned since this case has gone public is the information contained in the search warrant for the no-knock warrant was lies, flat out lies by the police officer in the affidavit. And so at a minimum, that officer should be charged, as well as the other officers whom also fired just as recklessly and was as reckless as Brett Hankinson was on that night, leading to the murder of Breonna Taylor.
Absolutely. I mean, that's a real problem. When you talk about the warrant process, right? Mm-hmm. Someone's going to a judge. The people they are going to the judge aren't there. So it's not an adversarial process. So the judges rely upon the people who are swearing in the documents submitted that it's the truth. Sometimes they'll even give oral testimony about it. So it's a very powerful tool that is used by law enforcement, whether it's the FBI or if it's local police in Kentucky. I mean, it's a powerful tool. And when people start lying, getting sloppy, reckless, or lazy, and that's what I've seen in other stories I've covered with no-knock warrants, it's usually the police. It's like a shortcut. They're lazy. They're like, we'll just knock down the door. We'll deal with it. But whatever we got to write. And I've seen horrible things happen to senior citizens and babies, and now to Breonna Taylor, an EMT. So something happened as a result of this. I mean, people spoke up, and now they've changed the way they're doing no-knock warrants?
Yeah, in Kentucky, or in Louisville specifically, our Metro Council passed an ordinance to ban no-knock warrants, and not just no-knock warrants, because what we've learned in talking to experts is a lot of times they will not get announced, but be banging the door open at the same time, which is in essence, they call it a quick announce, but it's in essence the same thing. If you don't have time to respond to know that it's police at the door, you can have these same outcomes. So we've also included in the language for no knock that they have to wait at least 15 seconds after they announce themselves before they attempt any forced entry. So that is banned. So no knock warrants are banned in Louisville, Kentucky. They also require BREONNA's law also requires the use of body cameras to be activated. You know, we like to use the word warned, but a lot of what we find is wear body cameras, but they don't activate them. So the law also requires that they activate it 5 minutes before they even begin to execute the search warrant, and they can't turn them off until 5 minutes after they concluded the entire warrant. So the entire search. So progress, still not complete justice, but it is progress.
So, Lenita, explain to me, and for folks at home as well, what did they say to this judge was the reason why they had to bash down the door in the middle of the night? Like, were they going after El Chapo? Who are they going after here?
Unfortunately, they were not going after El Chapo. The warrant for BREONNA's apartment was a combination of 5 other warrants that were supposed to be executed on this night. They were looking for the primary target of this narcotics investigation was actually apprehended prior to them executing the warrant at BREONNA's home. So, the risk of him escaping, he was already arrested. Second, he did not keep any narcotics at BREONNA's home. But what the officer put in the warrant for her apartment was that she was receiving packages at her apartment for this primary suspect that they were looking for. However, as I said, we learned that was a lie because the postal inspector said when a law enforcement agency checked with him to see if there was any suspicious packages going to her home, they in fact told that the law enforcement agency, no, there were no suspicious packages going to her address. So that's where the lie came from. So, you know, they were really after this really low level dealer who actually lived in one of the what they called a trap house. So, you know, where people came and used the drugs. He actually lived in one of those homes. So this was not El Chapo. It was a lower level drug dealer who was already apprehended before they entered into BREONNA's home. And as we know, he did not live there. He's never lived with BREONNA. It's someone that she knew, you know, and maintained a cordial relationship with. And when I say relationship or friendship with, but she should still be here today. And you hit it. It's sloppy police work.
That's what I was going to ask you. Is this lazy, sloppy, or are they just, you know, gung-ho to like put on all the armor and bash down a door in the middle of the night? What
but
was
they
your
didn't even have the
from it?
armor. Yeah, they didn't even have all the armor on. But I think it was they were lazy, they were sloppy, they were gung ho, but not in the sense that you said. What happened is this primary suspect that they had been looking for, he's been arrested almost every month for 6 months prior to this one, so they knew exactly where he was. Earlier in that same week that BREONNA was murdered, they executed a search warrant on one of the locations that he stays at. Turned up empty. He went on social media, posted it. 5-0 came in my house. They came up empty again. So they had it set in their mind that on March 13th, in the middle of the night, in wee hours of the morning, that they were going to go into every single and harass any person that really had any ties to him. And so, like I said, they had 5 warrants to execute that night on that same guy because he taunted them on social media. So they were gung-ho, but gung-ho to get this low-level dealer who had been taunting them on social media. It's not what our police is about. It's not supposed to be about vendettas. It's supposed to be about protecting and serving.
Absolutely. But, I mean, what you just described makes it 1,000% crystal clear. It was personal. Oh, he's showing us up on social media? We'll see. Yeah, that's exactly what happened. All right. What's next? What's going to happen next here?
The FBI is investigating. They're investigating not only the murder of Breonna Taylor, but also the investigation subsequent to her murder. There was an incident report that was released by police officers last week, and it was the incident report of the Public Integrity Unit, which on the spot for injuries to Breonna Taylor, it said none. It also said there was no forced entry. So we see these investigation done in this case, and so now that it's at the Attorney General's office to determine whether charges will be brought against the officers. The FBI is also doing an independent investigation. They were out at the apartment today doing an investigation. They've also been talking to neighbors, witnesses, which as our attorneys, we've already done that as well. So we are at least encouraged that the FBI is doing a complete independent investigation and not relying on the sloppy Public Integrity Unit investigation. But we want all of the officers involved, again, from the warrant to the investigation subsequent to her murder. Anyone that had anything to do with it to be fired, as well as charged appropriately.
Well, Lenita, I appreciate you coming on tonight. This is a story we've been covering from the beginning. Send our best to the family. And at the end of the day, people know me. I'm a former prosecutor. I support law enforcement. I was part of law enforcement early in my legal career. But I hold law enforcement up to a certain standard that they must meet. And when they don't, I'm the first one to call them out. And this is one of those situations. And no-knock warrants I call them no-sense warrants. We live in a country with a Second Amendment, with stand your ground, castle doctrine. We can't be knocking down doors in the middle of the night unless it's El Chapo. If it's El Chapo, maybe. Other than that, it's too dangerous for everyone involved, and Breonna becomes a victim of all this. Lenita, thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Thank you.